Hi, this is Sarah from Sarah's Art Life, and today I wanted to share a little sketching with you. Since many of us have some extra time on our hands and we are practicing self-isolation to prevent sickness from COVID-19, it seemed like a good time to get outside, observe nature, enjoy nature. It can be healing, and it seems a little safer than some of our public gathering spaces. And it also seems like a good time to slow down and focus on what we see around us. So today we're going to draw a nest and some eggs. Signs of hope, signs of spring, and maybe something we can see outside soon. All right, so here's the nest we'll be drawing. My husband found this in our wood pile outside. You can see the leaves and the sticks and a little piece of plastic in there. Good job, bird, for upcycling. I'm so sorry we made that available to you in nature. We've got some eggs. These I bought at the store. They're chicken eggs, and they do not go in this nest. Number one, and number two, they're not from my chickens who are protesting right now. They seem to be on strike for an extended period of time. But while we're looking at this nest and eggs, which make good models, because mostly they stay still, we can observe that they're round or oval or oblong. In fact, both of them, both the nest and the eggs, are in a common shape that we can identify. So shape is one thing we'll focus on. The second thing we'll focus on today is line. Notice the lines in the sticks and the nest, as well as the edges, which aren't really lines, but they're edges of the eggs. So those are the two things, shape and line. Let's talk a little bit about materials. I'm going to be using an HB pencil. It's nice and fat so that I don't give it the death grip. Try to control it too much. I'm going to be holding it a little differently, maybe more like a paintbrush so that I can relax. Hopefully when we're drawing, we're relaxed. It should be enjoyable, it should be fun. I'm going to be using some paper. Always good to have something to write on. You can use whatever paper you have available. Maybe a printer paper, maybe you have some notebook paper. Maybe you, like me, forget your green bags once in a while and you end up using a brown paper bag. This makes a really nice material to draw on. I happen to have some leftover cardstock from a project I did a few months ago, and these also make great postcards. You could paint a nest, go outside and observe something from nature, do a pretty drawing, and then turn it over, write your address in your note, and send a postcard to somebody who is self-isolating as well. What a great way to brighten our day and offer a little bit of connectivity during this time of isolation. So let's go ahead and draw. Sorry, nest, I'm gonna get rid of one stick so I can focus. So I'm gonna use my pencil to draw the shape of the nest. I'm going to draw this a little heavier than you might draw it because I want you to be able to see my lines. It's very loose, it's very easy. So I have the shape of a nest, not quite round, not quite oval. I'm going to also draw my eggs loosely. 3 nice fat eggs in this nest. Maybe sometime I'll explain why I like 3s. In art, we do things in odd numbers. It's just more satisfying, but we can go into that another time. I have 3 eggs in my nest. Notice that I didn't stop and start. Oh, there's another egg. Stop and start, stop and start. Because when I do that, stop and start, I might not pick the line up where it's supposed to be. I can always worry about that later. So I'm going to switch to pens now. I have 3 pens here. They're permanent, and one is a 10, one is a 6, one is a 3. If I were sketching in my journal, I'd probably take a thin-tipped marker or pen. Of course, you can use any markers. Just be aware that if you use something that's non-permanent, if you add water or color to that, it might smear. I'm going to use the 10 so that you all can see this in the video. And I'm going to just draw over my nest lines. You certainly don't have to erase your pencil lines, especially if they're drawn lightly. They add a nice feel to the painting, sketchy, authentic. I suppose if you're drawing it yourself, it's going to be authentic. And I'm going to break up some of these lines because you can see in the nest, if I look at it, some are thick, some are thin. So speaking of lines, lines in nature are not even. They're not all the same. I'm going to put in a little bit of heavy shading in some areas so that I can add a little depth. Maybe the light is hitting up here, but maybe not down here in the bottom of this nest. I'm going to bring some of these lines up to the eggs a bit. So you can see, make it not quite even. Some lines sticking out. You could probably draw some leaves in here. All right, so that's what I'm going to do with my nest. Now I'm going to draw my eggs. This first egg is what you're going to see first. It's got heavy weight at the bottom, lighter at the top. I'm going to draw this egg behind it. You see, now that I have that first line in pencil down, I can just draw with the pen and not worry about picking it up in the wrong place. And there's my third. So now I have 3 eggs and I have a nest. I could fuss around with this as much as I want, adding lines, coloring things in, doing different things with it. Okay. Now I'm going to take my watercolor pencil. You can use a crayon, or you could use a marker. You could use Cray-Pods. You could use watercolors. Remember, if you're using permanent ink, you can use water on it. If it's non-permanent, you probably want to choose something like crayon or maybe another marker. And I'm just going to lightly add a little color to these eggs. And then I'm going to take my watercolor brush. This is really handy to have, especially if you're outside. Water's inside the pen. I'm just going to give it a little squeeze, make sure I've got water in there. And I'm going to put some color in these eggs. And there we go. All right. Guess what? You can stop right there and you're done. You have a nest that you've observed from nature, brought inside on this windy, cold day here in the Pacific Northwest. You've got eggs observed from real eggs. And you've got a postcard that you can send to a friend to keep connected and to add that light to somebody's day. Thank you so much for drawing with me this afternoon. I hope that you're all well and that you stay that way. If you have the opportunity, maybe get outside and enjoy this beautiful world in this day. Take your sketchbook with you, take paper, pencils, pens, whatever you feel called to bring with you, and enjoy looking at line and shape and putting marks on paper. Take care and keep creative.